Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I guess it really just depends on what time you're listening to this. I'm Garrett J. Lawrence. I'm the host of People Watching. Welcome back to another episode. It's 2026 now. Today is January 14th, 2026. I initially was going to record on Tuesday and release that Tuesday night at about 7 p.m. We had to push it back a day, so we're coming to you real time on Wednesday, January 16th, 2026. And we've got a lot to talk about. The last time we were all here together was December 28th, when I had one of my good friends, Sarah Boone, on, and we discussed Islam and the future of really Western civilization when it comes to facing the problem of Islam. And so we've got a lot of fun things to talk about. A lot of great things have been happening since the 28th of December. A lot has happened in general. Plenty of different topics for us to cover. We obviously have a little bit of a review of Trump's administration in 2025 and how that went. We also have some changes to Trump's domestic policy, it seems like, going forward for the rest of his term. And on top of that, we also have the capture of Maduro. We have the possible purchase of Greenland happening. There's a lot of changes happening right now with that. A little bit of 4D chess, maybe even. And then we also had the shooting in Minneapolis, as well as a lot of fraud that was uncovered due to Mr. Nick Shirley and his journalistic abilities. And then we kind of have a whole plethora of things we're going to get into today, but we also are going to talk about what we can look forward to in the new year. But that being said, I'm happy to be back with you. I made some changes to the set here, aka my bedroom. I had wanted to clean up the back wall. I wanted to clean up the back wall a little bit and consolidate, and then I brought back home a 1776 American flag. It's a used one. It's got some cool tatters in it. I think it fits the vibe really well. Sits right behind me. But we've got a lot really to talk about. This might be a really long episode. It might be really short. There's kind of just a new world order that's kind of being put together right now. I'm really going to dig in on the Minneapolis shooting thing as well, and the Maduro capture. So without further ado, a little bit of news as well. Some changes to the schedule. We should be moving to 2 episodes a week. I'm planning on recording a Saturday night show that will release Saturday nights, as well as a Monday night. We'll record and then hopefully release by Tuesday night. So I'm excited to get more prolific, and I'm excited to get more involved. I'm excited to start putting more stuff out. I'm also working on a video essay on the theory that there is actually less than 8 billion people on Earth. It piqued my interest. It's a really weird idea, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of dive into it as a little bit of a project that I can do in my free time, because I've got so much free time. I'm hopefully putting that out by the end of this week, possibly Friday night. I just have to start scrambling to work on that today, while I also upload and put this together. So that being said, I would like to kind of segue into a little bit of a recap of the Trump administration in 2025. Trump was elected on November 4th by the majority in November of 2024. The majority of those people who voted for him are in favor of the ICE deportations that have then incurred. And so the minority, though they want to try and portray it as a majority issue, the minority of Democrats and liberals and communists and socialists have gone to the streets to protest the deportations that have occurred this year. So far, out of I believe the 600,000 forced deportations, only 170 of those have been improper or have resulted in an American citizen either being temporarily detained but nobody's been deported out of America that was an American citizen. But they have been temporarily detained. That does not violate your rights. And what's funny is that even some of those people that were temporarily detained were people who were impeding investigation. And so, as the majority rule, that most people are in support of deportations and most people are in support of the United States getting back its country away from these illegal immigrants and hateful people that hate this country and hate what it stands for. A lot of people are in support of that, and there are a lot of people that are not in support of that. And I believe it's about time that you get used to it. The majority rule is here. It's why we voted for Trump. It's why Trump won. And I feel like he's done so far a really good job. And honestly, people are in fear of ICE becoming a sort of Gestapo, and they are ruthless, and they are cunning, and they are aggressive. And to be honest, you have to be in order to get that job done. Because I want to ask those that dissent the deportation situation is, what would be your solution? We have provided a peaceful way to exit the country. You can get $1,000 and a free flight back to your home if you self-deport. In fact, about 1 million of those have happened this year. It might have been more, 1 million to 3 million, around there. More of those have happened than the improper deportations or even the forceful deportations, which means that ICE has about a 99.996% success rate when you look at it. Meaning ICE is incredibly efficient. The DEA is incredibly efficient. These institutions, since being super powered by Trump and him making his way into the White House, they have been incredibly efficient. They have done really, really well. In fact, during the Obama administration, there were ride-along documentaries from CNN and ABC of people going along with DEA and ICE agents and following them as they made deportations on the spot through New York City. It was something that was never frowned upon. Hillary Clinton ran on deportations in 2016 as well and securing the border. Obama ran on that in 2008 and 2012. So it's not like it's unheard of. It's also an issue, I think, that has been astroturfed by the media and certain groups of people, especially financiers. George Soros, Warren Buffett, these people, the Open Society Foundation, these people are funding these protests in Minneapolis against the shooting. And so I'm kind of going on a rant on the deportation thing, but that's something I wanted to highlight as a major success, I feel like, of the first year. I think we'd be on track for about, 7 million or so deportations, at least peaceful self-deportations and exits from the country by the end of Trump's term. I would like it to be way more than that. I would really like us to really take back certain communities. I believe the number is not that there is about, 20 to 30 million illegal immigrants in the country, or especially even people that hate the country. I think it's closer to maybe even 60 to 70 to 80 million people in the country that we've unaccounted for. And so really the immigration thing this last year has been a major success. And I think it is necessary for these agents, these federal officers, to be aggressive. And if they have to look like the Gestapo, and I say look like because that's not always the case. They're not going and knocking on doors, willingly. They will only do so unless they've been given a tip. There are accidents that are made by ICE. There are mistakes that are made. I'm not looking for a completely flawless administration. I'm looking for a issue to be honed in on and completely accomplished. And so I'm not looking for perfection. I'm really not. I'm just wanting to see this goal completed. And so if 0.006% of the time, 64% of the time, a mistake is made, and that mistake being the 170 improper temporary detentions, I'm fine with that. I'm fine if the error is, less than 0.1%. Especially given that the success rate becomes almost 100%. I'm fine with that. That is something I'm fine with. But the media has gone and very some liberal civil rights and socialist activist groups have left their kids at home to then go protest the very small percentage of mistakes that are made. That's fine. I don't think those mistakes should be made, but the idea that it all needs to stop because somebody was temporarily detained, again, that does not violate their civil rights. If you're under suspicion, they can bring you in. They just have to let you know what you're being brought in for. And I think it's pretty clear when ICE shows up on your front step what kind of crime they thought you committed. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people have forgotten that this is crime, and it has to be addressed as a criminal offense. A lot of people like to make the excuses of it being, a non-violent crime, and and so and that it shouldn't be persecuted. And so I ask again, what would your solution be? We have forceful detentions, and we have easy exit ways we've created with $1,000 in your pocket and a free flight. What's your solution other than that? Because they have to go, and that's just the case. And so, not really an easy way to segue, but let's see. Yeah, so the number last year was about 1.2 million voluntary departures. And again, this led to the sanctuary city fiscal crisis. It really cut all the federal grants in places like Chicago and Denver. Because they refused to cooperate. And this is honestly a genius play by the Trump administration. Basically, if you're not going to let us move the National Guard or ICE into your city, we will cut your funding for being a sanctuary city. And I believe as of last night, Trump is cutting sanctuary city benefits completely as of starting in February. I believe the 28th, the end of the month, he's cutting all funding for sanctuary cities, which is a phenomenal way of smoking everybody out, the rats out. And so, and even even some of the blue cities did begin to cooperate with ICE in order to avoid complete bankruptcy. And so they have some blue cities have gone to deporting the illegal aliens and obeying the law. So that's nice to hear. And so let me see. And then another win, honestly, from last year. So I'm going to go kind of through a checklist here of just wins from the year. And so the U.S. became the world's largest net exporter of natural gas. And then there was the Doge purge, which really was Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy way to target kind of the middlemen of the government and the Board of Education. Or Department of Education, and so they successfully cut, I think, about 250,000 federal jobs, from the EPA to the Department of Education to the IRS, and then they utilized the Schedule F reclassifications to strip civil service protections, followed by a relocation of resignation, which then moved headquarter offices to the Midwest, more red states. And again, it wasn't just saving money the reason they were doing this. It was the bureaucracy they were smoking out, the whatever you want to call it, the deep state. It was really just decapitating the over-regulation, the over-bureaucratic infestation going on in these institutions. And so the federal rulemaking percentage slowed by 64% in 2025, which really was a massive win for the private sector. Again, we're moving in this direction of making a small government and keeping a large military. And so, I wanted to talk about some of the downs. So we obviously had the Trump-Musk rift. Musk is claiming that Trump is in the Epstein files, and then he deletes the tweet. And so we don't really hear much about Trump and Musk as partners for the rest of the year. It was very visible by August on the latter half of the year. And so Musk, along with Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna and a lot of these other people and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they all pushed for the release of the Epstein files. And so obviously being the total... let's just say it, disappointment that Pam Bondi is that her name, Pam Bondi? or is it Bam Bondi? Yeah, it's Pam Bondi, right? Anyway, redacting the Epstein files. We're never going to get full transparency with that. We are still yet to see any transparency with that. They released the Epstein files, but it wasn't really a real release. A lot of the files were very, what's the word? Misleading. They were redacting photos that were public information, photos of Michael Jackson trying to make him look bad, photos of Trump trying to make him look bad, even for old photos of Virginia Giuffre that we've had for years now. So it does raise my suspicion about the claim Trump has made that the left has been trying to use the Epstein files to frame Trump and some other people in his league. And so on top of that, another kind of downside was the tariff shock in quarter three. The universal 10% baseline tariff was implemented in June last year. And while it spurred some domestic manufacturing reshoring, it did cause a 4.8% spike in the consumer price index in August. Small businesses that rely on Chinese components, electronic specialty steel, saw their margins evaporate really overnight. And this led to the great pivot of 2025, where the administration had to issue tariff exemptions to favored industries, leading to accusations of crony capitalism. Again, I don't think it's crony capitalism. We're just doing it to incentivize companies to come back on our shores and start manufacturing here. I'm fine with that. It's one of the few fairly isolationist America First topics that I really like. Just bringing everything manufacturing, whether that's cars, steel, electronics, bringing it here. Apple is beginning to do that. I think the government, if you're going to, I get why this looks like crony capitalism, but if you're going to tariff everybody into oblivion, you need to incentivize even more the reason to come on shore. Like, hey, we're going to tariff you, but if you come, whatever, to bring your industry here to our shores, we're going to basically, we'll match you 30% of whatever you're going to invest here. We'll help you out. I think that would be a good investment. But the problem with that is obviously you're going to have fraud and you're going to have people try to cheat that system. And then we had a 62-day shutdown in the government. I think that was correlated with the Epstein files, but obviously it's all been sidetracked. They all refused in the administration. The administration refused to sign a continuing resolution, and that included funding for the Department of Education and DEI programs in the military. And from October 1st to December 2nd, the government was completely shuttered. Trump banked kind of on the public not noticing the missing federal services. However, the shutdown of the national parks and the delay of Social Security processing led to a lot of No Kings protests. I don't think anybody was out in No Kings protesting because of the national parks. I think a lot of people enjoyed the weird bureaucracy that goes on with just going to look at trees. They enjoyed that being gone. And so I think 2025 was kind of a big direct hit on the hull. The administration really spent the year testing a lot of structural integrity for America in general. They kind of found their limits, I think. While the machine is slow to change, I think it is really easy to break. And I think they discovered that. It's really easy to just shut everything down. I mean, you can just do it like that. And so the question for this year is really like, what are they going to do next? What are they going to break next? Can they actually build this new version of the American Republic and the economy under the weight of this giant transition? Will they be able to do that? I'm excited to see that. I think they will. I think Trump knows that if he doesn't make any incredibly insane drastic changes to America in general, I think he knows that a lot of people can just go and reverse it. And so I think right now they're just looking at trying to make as many changes as possible, large changes as possible. That may even include the purchase of Greenland, the invasion of Venezuela. We might even get Canada on our side. We might get Mexico. Listen, I am a American individualist, isolationist most of the time. I put America first. I care the most about America's benefits. I care the most about what benefits America. What I've discovered after this invasion of Venezuela is that what benefits America seems to benefit the rest of the whole world. And so I'm okay with America being a little chauvinist every now and then. I'm okay with reforming the entire hemisphere. I'm okay with us shutting out Russia and China from our hemisphere, if that means some diplomatic changes being made to South America and the northern part of the region and purchasing Greenland. Strategically, purchasing Greenland, we're going to get to that later. I'll get into that later. I don't want to talk about that yet because I've got some cool thoughts on that. And so I'm going to kind of try to segue, now that we're talking domestically a little bit, into kind of the changes to the domestic policy as it looks to be headed in 2026. And so I think the administration kind of operated on shock and awe executive orders last year. Some that we weren't even entirely satisfied with. And so on July 4th, 2025, that changed with the signing of Public Law 11921, aka the Big Beautiful Bill. This is the now. It's a massive, obviously 2,000-page codification of the Trump 2.0 agenda. I think Trump 2.0 was last year, and it was a little faulty, and then he got a bunch of software patches in the fall, and we're getting Trump like 3.0 in 2026. I mean, I'm not going to get into it all, but like literally since January 1st to today, some of the most ridiculous, they've done more in the last 3 weeks. Actually, I take that back. They've done as much as they did in 2025 in like 3 weeks this year. So like next week, what is it? We're going to take Cuba? Are we just going to get Denmark to cooperate and we're going to buy Greenland? Like, it could be that easy. It could be that drastic of a change fairly quickly. And so here's the meat to the Big Beautiful Bill, because I haven't talked about it on the show yet. So the economic and financial structure changes here. They ended the cliff of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Corporate rates are locked at 21%. Individual brackets are now permanent, preventing the scheduled 2026 tax hike, which is nice. No tax on tips and overtime. Eligible workers making under $150,000 as a single income or under $300,000 as a joint income can now deduct the first $25,000 in tips and $12,000 in overtime pay from their federal taxable income. Really nice. Basically a free $25,000, free $12,000. In tip states like Nevada or Florida, this has resulted in an average $2,400 a year increase in take-home pay for service industry workers, effectively creating a Trump raise without a minimum wage hike. I believe that's how we get around this stuff. I don't think minimum wage is what's killing people. It's that so many taxes are deducted. And so we need to move in a direction that allows people to take home more of their pay tax-wise, because what exactly are they making? You see Ron DeSantis wanting to do this in Florida. The state of Florida has paid off half of its debt that it's had for about 70 years. It paid off half of its debt in his first term as governor. And so he believes that his state makes so much money that we don't even need to give them a state income tax, and he wants to move in the direction of trying to remove the federal income tax, or at least matching people and their money to get that money back. Because he's like, why are they paying this if my state already makes X amount of money? I don't need any extra. We're just robbing everybody, and then we could end up wasting the money if we do that. And then there's, of course, the baby bonds. In July this year, the Treasury will seed $1,000 into a tax-deferred Trump account for every child born after December 31st, 2024. Employers can match contributions up to $2,500 tax-free, essentially creating a privatized social safety net for the next generation. That is essential. What he's doing is basically giving young parents the ability to put $3,500 into basically a 529 and let that acquire, obviously compound interest, and then it's a safety net. A lot of people have talked about needing a social safety net. I think this is one of the best ways of doing it. I think it's frankly something that's flown under the radar for a lot of people, but that starts in July this year. So we're gonna have to pay attention to that. And so these are the kind of where the friction or the rubber meets the road in the education and healthcare overhauls here. But the OBBA obviously redefined the 529 savings plans. They can now be used for any K-12 expense, including private tuition, homeschooling, or religious curriculum. This is the education atom bomb, moving funding from the institution to the individual. Again, that is the core of what the Trump administration is trying to achieve. It is individualizing everybody more. It is removing the funding and removing the power of the institution back into the individual, like it was intended in the beginning. And that's kind of flies in the face of, Zoran Mamdani's term about saying the country was founded on rugged individualism. Listen, rugged individualism is what made the country, and it's actually been slowly fading away recently and in the last 50 years or so. And so we're bringing it back. His idea that what did he call it? The common something, or he institutionalized the people. Listen, the people are individualized, so the institution has no power over us. As soon as you start to blend everybody together into one group, you then have created a new economic unit, and you're going to rob people even more because of that. And so, while ACA subsidies were allowed to expire, causing premiums to spike for many, the OBBA opened the floodgates for direct primary care. And as of January 1st this month, Americans can use their HSA funds to pay DPC monthly subscription fees tax-free. The administration's bet is basically that the DPC will bypass insurance companies and lower costs through a free market doctor-patient relationship. Again, a lot of stuff that not even I was paying attention to that is really good for the economy, and we're going to really begin to use these more often as we go forward. And I think it's really going to help the people. And like a lot of people are talking about how SNAP is getting cut and stuff. Well, it's like, okay, SNAP is getting narrowed down or ended, but that money is essentially getting moved over to HSA. So now you can afford better health care. So I believe that while 2025 was kind of this demolition of everything, I think the 2026 is going to be this year of architecture. I think we're not just cutting the government. We're going to build a new parallel system. And again, we're moving the individual back into the primary position as the primary economic unit. And so, yeah. All right, we're back. I had to go blow my nose. I sound really nasally. I've been having weird nasal issues recently, so I apologize. Where were we? We were at, so we, again, prioritizing the individual as the primary economic unit. And then that kind of leads us to the acquisition of Greenland and a giant geopolitical realignment that we've been beginning to watch. Obviously, Trump joked about buying Greenland in, I believe, 2018. Kind of went under the radar, came back up again early 2025. And then now with this capture of Maduro and kind of this giant geopolitical realignment happening where it seems that we're trying to kick the other countries out of our hemisphere and bringing back the Monroe Doctrine kind of as a 2.0, Trump referring it to as the Don Roe Doctrine. And so on January 5th, Trump stated that Denmark is a great country, but they can't protect it, obviously referring to Greenland. We need Greenland for national security, and we're going to get it. I agree. I don't know if any of you guys have looked at the type of access Russia has to the upper, more northern hemisphere of the Americas and where their bases are at. We really only have one profitable, not profitable, but we only have really one good position when it comes to where our submarines are at, and it's kind of up near Canada. We have a single base, I believe, in Scotland for our submarines. The Scots don't like nuclear warheads or nuclear warfare or any wars at all, and so they're very against us having that position there. I wouldn't be surprised if Scotland ever, I'm forgetting the word, becomes its own individual country rather than underneath the UK. I'm forgetting what it's called. It's fine. They'd probably kick us out of there. And so there's the rare earth mineral and Arctic standoff. So the mineral gold mine that Greenland holds is that they have apparently 1.5 million metric tons of these rare earth elements or metals, including neodymium, praseodymium, and dysprosium. And the strategic position, again, it's not just about these minerals. It's about the entire nervous system, including the F-35s we have, the Tomahawk missiles, and possibly even shipping our AI data centers there. And as a resident of Virginia, one of the capitals of AI data centers, let's send them all there. They'll stay cold. You get them out of people's neighborhoods. And currently China, they control about 80% of these rare earth elements, and 80% of the processing that goes on with them. And so acquiring Greenland would basically break the CCP's chokehold that they have on Western tech. And so the GIUK gap and Arctic hegemony here, as ice caps melt, the Northwest Passage becomes the new Suez Canal. By controlling Greenland, the U.S. can secure the GIUK gap, which is the Greenland, Icelandic, and United Kingdom gap, effectively turning the Arctic into a U.S. lake, and locking Russia, again, like I was saying earlier, Russia's northern fleet out of the Atlantic. And we need to do that strategically, especially when it comes to long-term warfare and obviously giant global instability right now. We could go to World War III tomorrow. And so how they're going to do this is basically there's an idea of a buyout. Internal White House memos have leaked in early January suggesting sovereignty for solvency. The U.S. is floating a $20,000 per capita payout directly to Greenland's 56,000 citizens. I believe Trump bumped that number up to $100,000. Earlier this week. But all I know is that even if they went with the $20,000 per capita payout, it would only cost us $1.12 billion. In that case, it'd be about 3 Somalian daycares. So, so a rounding error in the federal budget for a continent-sized acquisition, basically. So that the money that went missing in the Pentagon a couple days before 9/11 could pay for Greenland. So let's just keep that in mind. And so the administration is also pushing for a Greenlandic independence referendum from Denmark. And so once independent, Greenland would sign a COFA, which is basically modeled after the Micronesia, granting the U.S. total military and mineral control in exchange for perpetual economic aid and defense. So we just send Denmark money and guns, and we'd get Greenland, which I think is a phenomenal deal. I think it's great. I think we should go forward with that. And so the Danish Prime Minister, though, Frederiksen, basically stated on the 6th that a U.S. annexation would mean the de facto end of the North Atlantic Treaty, so the end of NATO. And obviously, great, that's a win. NATO has done nothing. They've done nothing since forever. In fact, what NATO does, so like we're going to buy Greenland. Greenland, they say Greenland, well, that's crazy. You can't do that. We're going to threaten to write a memo on this. That's what NATO does. NATO threatens to comment on things. That's been their greatest function in the last 70 years, and we all adhere to it, which is stupid. And so, given that, we're talking about NATO here, this marks, again, the departure from all this rules-based order to rather interest-based order. And under this Trump 3.0, if a territory is vital to the U.S. security and the current owner is failing to protect it, that territory is up for negotiation. I think that's exactly what we saw with Maduro. We have these very unhappy Venezuelans. He's a dictator. We have liberals protesting his release in the streets of L.A. because they have no idea about the history of Venezuela. They're all paid, obviously. And so with that, I'm going to segue into the capture of Maduro that happened on the 3rd this month, on January 3rd. And so we're going to break it all down for you. So at 2:01, I believe it's Zulu time, January 3rd in 2026, over 200 English. Over 200 U.S. Special Operations Forces, including Delta, SEAL, Team 6, and the FBI's hostage rescue team, were inserted into, is it Caracas? Caracas. Were inserted into Caracas via 150 plus aircraft. The videos are insane. Alejandro down north end is recording on his front lawn, and he's seeing 20 Blackhawks come and explosions happening all over the place. And Hugo Chavez's mansion and memoriam is blown to smithereens. But the primary extraction occurred at the Fort Tiuna military complex. I'm not pronouncing that right, but it's fine. I don't care. Specifically targeting Maduro's underground bunker system. Satellite imagery confirmed a 9-meter crater at the bunker entrance where SOF breached the seal. There was a total of 75 total dead, 32 of whom were Cuban special forces serving as Maduro's guard. No U.S. fatalities were reported. We were in, we were out. We did it in 2 hours? We did it before Rand Paul or Thomas Massie could tweet the dumbest thing you've ever read. I love you, Thomas Massie and Rand Paul. But you guys, you got to chill on hating on any decision Trump makes. You got to be in favor of the things that benefit America and the rest of the world and a bunch of innocent people like the Venezuelans. But I forgot. It doesn't matter. The opinion of the Venezuelans who have now been freed doesn't matter. What matters is the opinion of the liberal barista at the Starbucks inside the Target tweeting and saying, this is fascism and he's a dictator and he's innocent. He was a sovereign leader. Go piss up a tree, Leslie. Anyway, this is the kind of chauvinism I like. And so on the 6th, the anniversary of January 6th, the administration officially invoked the Trump corollary. This doctrine states that any nation in the Western Hemisphere hosting foreign adversaries, such as Russia or China, or engaging in state-sponsored narco-terrorism, forfeits its sovereignty to U.S. law enforcement. People are like, oh, but this violates international law. We are the international law. We are international law. International law means nothing without us. And so if you're going to be promoting narco-terrorism and you're going to be housing our adversaries from the other hemisphere, you have forfeited your sovereignty, and you are now under U.S. law enforcement. And so Trump obviously didn't hide the ball. In his Mar-a-Lago presser with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, he stated, We have tremendous energy in that country. We're going to run Venezuela until a transition occurs. Obviously, that just means that he's going to make Marco Rubio president of Venezuela temporarily. I'm sure that he's super interested in that. Let's make Marco Rubio president of Canada, Mexico, Greenland, and Cuba. A lot will get done. That guy and Pete Hegseth, I used to think Pete Hegseth was a joke. Those guys are rabid dogs. Really. When they really care about the issue, they are rabid dogs. I met Marco Rubio once. He came to my school. He probably doesn't remember it, but it's fine. He had a good cologne. He smelled good. That's what I remember. And he sounded funny. He has a weird voice. But incredibly intelligent individual. Incredibly intelligent. For sure. Definitely not as much of a pushover as some of the other guys. And so on January 7th, we kind of already signaled that U.S. oil majors, Chevron, Exxon, were being invited to rebuild the grid in exchange for the first 50 million barrels of crude oil, effectively treating Venezuela as a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, where the U.S. is a primary creditor. Which I like that. I like this. I like it. I want my gas to be 50 cents a gallon. Save us all a lot of money. And so now you have the Southern District of New York case, because obviously when they went in, they captured Maduro, they captured him and his wife. They charged him with narco-terrorism, centering mostly on the Cartel of the Suns, cocaine, weapon of war, conspiracy. Obviously, they can charge him with practically anything, but he's in federal custody in New York right now. I don't know as of today if that's changed at all. And so acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, sworn in on the 5th, released 116 political prisoners to prevent a second wave of attacks, effectively cooperating with the new reality while publicly calling it a kidnapping. So she's politically saying this is okay, but then going on TV and CNN and saying, oh, it's kidnapping. And then she took a Nobel Prize that Trump obviously wanted, and Trump is probably being like, that belongs to me. I'm going to make sure that you never become president. So, the Maduro capture. Crazy stuff. And so, speaking of regimes, since December, there have been anti-regime protests in the past, but there have been anti-regime protests in Iran or Iran. The media has not covered it at all. There is internet blackouts. There's electricity blackouts. There were regime police who were laying down their guns and assisting with the public. There's a lot going on. But the big thing right now is, pretty clear that it started out at about 117 people dying. And then now, as of today, I believe it's almost at 3,000 protesters have been killed by the regime, and about 17,000 have been detained. And that's women, children, and men. That's everybody. And a lot of these people are fed up. They're calling for the death of the Ayatollah. But let's back it up a little bit. And so, on the 28th, the Iranian rial hit 1.4 million per the dollar on December. So their currency is worth nothing. It's zero. Let's pull it up. Let's look. Yeah. 1 Iranian rial equals $0 as of today. Let's look in the last year. It's also been really bad for the last year, but yeah, it's worth $0 now. And so this wasn't inflation. It was just total evaporation of the middle class's life savings. I mean, we have this shadow of the 12-day war back in June, where Israeli and U.S. strikes crippled Iran's nuclear sites and killed about 30 plus high-ranking Iranian commanders. The regime has been seen as weakened and humiliated, and the people are no longer afraid. And so, from the 8th to the 10th, during all these reports of these protests, the Iranian International and the HRANA, which is, I believe it's something activist network, indicated that over 2,000 protesters were killed in a single 48-hour window. That's ridiculous. Some expatriate groups estimate the death toll has passed 6,000 since late December. Again, we don't really know anything that might play a part in why the media won't cover it, but protesters are just, again, asking for reform, and they're chanting that this is the year of the blood of the Ayatollah, and that he will be overthrown. And so my biggest problem with this is, obviously, why is the government not covering it? Why is the internet not covering it? And I'm going to get to my opinion at the end, but first we're going to just talk about the more bipartisan ideas. And so on the 9th, the regime initialed a total internet and phone blackout. Legacy outlets like New York Times, BBC have refused to report high casualty counts without independent verification, which is impossible given the current blackout they're under. There's a conflict in regards to Starlink. Anybody attempting to release footage through Starlink or leak footage will be signal tracked by the regime and arrested. Media outlets are wary of using unverified social media footage, even though there is plenty of verified social media footage that they won't even use. Because Trump has publicly cheered for the protester, Iran is looking for freedom. The USA stands ready to help, quote from Trump. Many Western media outlets are treating the uprising as U.S.-backed regime change, rather than a grassroots revolution, essentially ignoring the humanitarian crisis to avoid aligning with the White House narratives. Again, this is the situation that we've been having for years now, that anything the Trump admin does, anything the right does, the left has to disagree with. It is part of their religion. You have to disagree with it. You cannot be in support of it. So by Trump, obviously them being the first to claim the issue and be like, we are for the freedom of you people, it's being deemed regime change by the U.S. That is single-handedly the most retarded thing you could say about this issue. That is beyond anything I could imagine. You have a group, and here's why, okay? Here's why. It flies into the face of the narrative. Narrative? What do you mean by that, Garrett? Narrative? Well, the narrative about Iran being peaceful and in this wonderful, inclusive place, and that Islam is wonderful and inclusive, and we should bring it here. Well, Iran playing a large part in the promotion of Islam, obviously is not a goody two-shoes. And they are killing their people because they are wanting to progressivize the country. The people are no longer afraid of the regime, and they want their freedom back. There are women burning their hijabs. There are women literally smoking cigarettes and lighting pieces of pictures of the Ayatollah on fire. This completely flies in the face of the narrative. You literally have people like Cardi B is promoting wearing a hijab and working out in it, while women over there are being raped, tortured, and killed. It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. It really is. It's utter nonsense. And unfortunately, the left will not recognize that it is a real humanitarian crisis happening over there. This is a real dictatorship. Like, you have all these no kings protests. Why don't you bring that to Iran, where people are actually getting shot for expressing their beliefs? And this is not only that, but this is the majority is expressing their beliefs. Isn't that crazy? It's the majority. The majority of people over there are against the regime, and they're dying for it, and they're being imprisoned for it. But you know what? That doesn't matter, because ICE shot some crazy lady. Listen, it's bad when that happens. I'm not for any of that. It's bad. It is. But you need to realize the reality. Like, if you want to talk global issues, you're not under a dictatorship. You're not under a dictatorship whatsoever. All right, I'm back. I had to blow my nose again. Anyway, you're not under a dictatorship. You don't know what you're talking about. And my encouragement to all my leftist friends, you're going to have to talk about this. And you're going to have to face the fact that you're not under a dictatorship. And you should be for the freedom of actually oppressed people who are getting shot for expressing their beliefs. That is something very unique about America, is that you and I, we can express our beliefs. We can have two opposing opinions and neither one of them be enforced on each other. Only just what is just and what is right and what is the law. And that's what's important about recognizing what's going on. And so now, the Minneapolis shooting, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so we're gonna go with the law here. I know not everybody agrees with the law. I agree with the law right now. I agree with what a lot of what the law says when it pertains to enforcement of the law and deportations. And so we're gonna look at some context here. And so, on January 7th of this month, 2026, ICE's Special Response Team, SRT, was executing a high-risk warrant in South Minneapolis. Renee Nicole Good and her spouse were not the primary targets, but became the primary antagonists when they used their vehicle to create a perimeter, or block, to impede the arrest of a Tier 1 non-citizen fugitive. Very clearly in all the videos, she floors the vehicle. She turns the wheels toward him. The only reason she did not utterly obliterate his guts is because her vehicle lost traction. And so, contrary to early social media clips, we have 10 plus angles at this point, including body cams, doorbell cameras, a police drone, cell phone footage, and on and on. Confirmed that Good's SUV was being used as a weapon. And so, after being ordered to stop, show hands, and exit the vehicle repeatedly, again, by federal officers, some would like to argue that, they're ICE agents, they can't do this, they're not police, they can't perform arrests like this. I'm going to cite you right now the law about obstruction of administrative proceedings. This criminalizes any attempt to corruptly or by threat of force influence, obstruct, or impede a pending agency investigation or proceeding. Here's another law. Obstruction of criminal investigations. Specifically, punishes those who willfully prevent the communication of information regarding a federal crime to a criminal investigator. Again, the footage from the adjacent property, angle number 4, shows the vehicle tires turned specifically toward the officer's position, establishing lethal intent. Like stated before, this falls squarely under 18 U.S.C. Section 111, assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees. By using a 5,000-pound vehicle to impede a federal investigation, the legal observer status is forfeited. You're not a legal observer anymore. You are impeding an investigation. Not only that, but you're instigating. And so the rap sheet, obviously, we're going to talk about something that nobody's talked about. The left won't talk about it. Nobody will talk about it. Good and her wife reveal, after investigative deep dives, it's been revealed that they have a history of aggravated assault and interfering with a peace officer dating back to 2019. Sources confirm they lost custody of their children in 2024 following a domestic incident involving a standoff with Child Protective Services. This paints, again, a picture of professional agitator rather than a peaceful bystander. I wanted to say that, again, the poet mother narrative is being pushed by the legacy media, and it's really funny because these were literally child abusers. And the spouse is shouting at the car, "Drive, baby, drive." She's encouraging her driving over these people. So obviously the ugly part of this is the media gaslighting. So despite all the angles and despite the Hennepin County Attorney's Office's information regarding the Good family, the attorney is still appearing on primetime news claiming she was executed for holding a notebook, which is ridiculous. The incident is being used by the administration to justify the Federal Officer Protection Act of 2025, which grants absolute immunity to agents facing vehicular assault during enforcement actions, which, again, vehicular assault has been like one of the most common ways of assault on federal officers recently, specifically ICE. There was also a shooting in Oregon. ICE officer killed 2 individuals. They both were members of a violent gang and were shooting AK-47s into the air. That's not going to get brought up because they're not a good enough subject for pushing and spinning a narrative like this. And so the city of Minneapolis is currently under a red alert for civil unrest, with the No Kings movement using a deliberately edited 5-second video to incite further riots, ignoring the 10+ angles that exonerate the agents. This lady lost her kids and went on to advocate for the protection of people that cost her and her fellow Americans $150 to $451 billion in fiscal drain. And again, protecting people that want to RAPE you, do it to your kids. They want to rob you. They want to stab you. They hate your heritage, your country, and your skin color. Again, the law backs this up. And on the lighter end, you could try to argue that these 2 people panicked. And I would say so too. I would panic if a car drove full speed at me and tried to hit me. And now, as of today, it's been vindicated that the officer suffered internal bleeding from being hit from the car. So he was harmed. It was imminent threat. And so here's a take from Fuentes about having sympathy for this. Nick Fuentes. Tucker's newsletter says, "I don't care what side you're on. A woman was shot in the face, and that's a tragedy." Nick Fuentes says, "No, it really isn't at all. When Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, these dirtbags publicly celebrated. When Trump was shot in the face, they publicly celebrated. These far-left activists are evil garbage. They want you dead, and they are actively working to destroy our country. There is no moral equivalence, and to say that this is partisanship obfuscates the truth. These people want your kids to have their genitals cut off. They want criminals loose in the country. They want open borders. This woman wasn't shot in a traffic stop. This woman wasn't shot in a traffic stop. She was there with her wife to harass and impede federal immigration enforcement. You can see the look in her and her girlfriend's eyes. These are the typical liberal women who have never faced any accountability. They are so bold because they are used to getting their way in this society. That has to end. If they miscalculate, then good riddance." There it is, folks. There it is. One of the, honestly, easier to swallow takes from Fuentes here. It's a good one. These people see themselves as morally superior, even though they laugh at the death of Charlie Kirk, the shooting at Trump, and then Scott Adams passed away yesterday from cancer. And after watching his explanation of some of his what were deemed derogatory and racial comments, his main point is there is no benefit as a white person for standing up and trying to support black people anymore. There's no benefit. I can kind of agree slightly. I mean, like, why would I stand with BLM? Those people hate me. They hate me. They do. They hate me. They want to kill me. They think they are superior to me. But anyways, not to get off track, but Scott Adams dies of cancer and the left celebrates. Their headlines are, Scott Adams, known for Dilbert and being a racist, dies of cancer. But then they'll go praise O.J. Simpson. I don't know how clearer it can get at this point. I don't know how much clearer it can get at this point. How can you side with these people? Charlie Kirk dies, the right goes and prays. and goes to worship services. People go to church. People who hadn't been to church in 20 years went to church on Sunday after Charlie Kirk died because of things he had said. Do you think there's any leftists out there where that would be the case? You think if any leftist died or somebody died on the left end and people would go to church because of things they said? Those are the people you're dealing with. They view themselves as morally superior. Violence is bad unless it benefits them. You see that? Death is bad unless it benefits them. Good riddance. The case will obviously likely go to the Supreme Court by the end of the year, and probably set the precedent that impeding a federal officer with a vehicle is going to constitute an automatic threat of lethal force. I'm fine with that. And so, to kind of wrap things up, if the public continues to side with the evidence over the narrative, expect the Trump admin to move even faster on urban pacification bills in Chicago and Portland. That's one way to wrap it all up, for sure. That's really all I got today. I'm going to chop this up, put it out there, hopefully have it out by tonight. Again, you've been watching People Watching. You've been listening to People Watching with me. And my message really this year is we don't negotiate with terrorists. I don't negotiate with terrorists. And the left consistently pushes terrorists and anti-capitalist and socialist and communist and disgusting evil rhetoric. And I have no mercy for them anymore. I don't have any mercy left to give. I don't have any sympathy or empathy left to give with these people because they won't negotiate with me. They will not communicate with me on any of the terms I offer. I can't argue with them because they don't use fact. I can't exist in a space where debate happens because I'm privileged and I'm white. This has been People Watching. See you in the next one.